Daniel Miller never believed in destiny until the rainy afternoon he collided with Emily Parker outside a flower shop in Bristol, both dropping their bags as roses scattered across the pavement. Emily laughed in embarrassment. Daniel apologized repeatedly, and their awkward start immediately melted into warmth as they helped each other gather flowers. They spent the next hour talking in a nearby cafe, discovering how strangely familiar they felt, as if they had known each other long before this life. Emily, though, bright-eyed and gentle, carried a quiet sadness behind her smile. When Daniel sensed, but didn't question, Daniel introduced her to Pumpkin, a ginger stray cat he had rescued, who surprisingly jumped straight into Emily's lap on the first Madinga, rare sign of affection from a cat who usually feared strangers. Their love grew quickly, naturally, beautifully. Within a year, they married, despite Daniel's parents refusing to accept Emily for reasons they never explained. Daniel walked away from his family for her, holding her trembling hands as he promised she would never have to face the world alone. They rented a small but cozy house near the outskirts of the city, where the nights were quiet and stars felt closer. Life became simple and warm, cooking dinners together, reading books at night. Pumpkin following Emily everywhere like a furry bodyguard. When Emily became pregnant for the first time, Daniel cried into her shoulder out of pure joy. But with the pregnancy came the first whisper of darkness. Emily started waking up, sweaty and shaking, insisting she saw a woman standing by their bed at night, a tall figure with a shadow instead of a face. Sometimes she heard breathing behind her while washing dishes. The baby monitor crackled with static and soft humming even when the device was turned off. Pumpkin grew aggressive toward empty spots in the hallway, his fur rising, his body shielding Emily as if protecting her from something Daniel couldn't see. Daniel tried to comfort her, believing she was anxious because of the pregnancy. But one night he woke up to the sound of Emily screaming. When he reached the kitchen, she was pinned against the wall by an invisible force, crying that something was trying to crush her stomach. Daniel pulled her away, but as it did, the hanging bulbs burst in a shower of sparks. A week later, Emily fell down the stairs, though she swore someone had pushed her. She lost the baby in a miscarriage that broke both their hearts. Oddly, the haunting stopped immediately afterward. Months passed. They tried to heal. Emily stopped smiling. Daniel worked double shifts to distract himself, and Pumpkin slept beside her every night to calm her nightmares. Then Emily got pregnant again, and the darkness returned. This time stronger. Shadows slithered across their walls, whispering in old forgotten languages. Emily heard voices calling her name from the attic, even though she never went up there. Doors locked themselves. At night, the reflection in their bedroom mirror blinked when Emily didn't. She woke with scratches on her stomach that looked like fingernails. Pumpkin began vomiting blood, weakened by whatever dark force he was absorbing. Emily held him crying, begging him to stay with her. A week later, the second baby died in her womb. Emily spent hours in the empty nursery holding the small baby blanket and sobbing into it, hoping for answers. Daniel took her to specialists. Spiritual counselors, therapists, everyone gave the same answer. There is nothing wrong with her body, but Emily knew something else was taking her children. One afternoon while grocery shopping, Emily bumped into an old holy man named Father William, who immediately paled when he saw her. He claimed something ancient and hungry was clinging to her spirit. Daniel and Emily reluctantly allowed him to visit their house. The moment he entered, the lights flickered aggressively, and Pumpkin hissed with fear. Father William walked through each room with shaking hands, whispering prayers. When he entered the small unused basement, he froze in horror, whispering, "This house reeks of a curse older than your birth." During a ritual that night, Father William received a terrifying revelation. Emily's mother, desperate to conceive a child decades ago, performed a forbidden ritual involving grave soil and blood sacrifice. The ritual worked, but the price was that every child Emily conceived belonged to the spirits who granted that wish. The curse, bound through Emily's bloodline, was unstoppable. Emily collapsed sobbing as Daniel held her, devastated and furious at the mother who had doomed her life. That night, Emily woke to see her dead unborn children standing at the foot of her bed, small silhouettes with flickering hollow eyes. They whispered her name in broken voices. She screamed until Daniel ran in, but the figures vanished. Emily became pregnant again. This time she hid it for weeks, terrified that acknowledging it would call the spirits sooner. But the moment the entity sensed life inside her, The house erupted into chaos. Furniture moved on its own. Frames fell from walls. Emily felt invisible hands dragging her out of bed. She heard children crying inside the walls, begging for help. One night she woke choking on dirt, her mouth filled with soil as if someone was forcing her to swallow grave dust. Daniel found her nearly unconscious and shaking violently. The neighborhood also began noticing strange events. Street dogs refused to pass near their house. Neighbors heard a woman crying from their backyard late at night. An old lady living 2 houses away claimed she saw Emily floating above her window one early morning, her hair whipping violently in the wind, though there was no storm. Pumpkin, now extremely weak, stopped meowing entirely, lying by Emily's side with sad eyes full of fear and loyalty. As the due date approached, Father William prepared a protection ritual involving salt circles, holy inscriptions, burning herbs, and chants. But each night the spirits grew more violent. They appeared clear-wristed women with rotting faces, long limbs, and claw-like fingers crawling on walls. Some nights Emily saw a massive horned shadow standing beside her, whispering, "It is ours." Daniel began sleeping with the lights on, holding Emily's hand throughout the night. Father William slept in the living room to guard them, but the spirits began attacking him, too, scratching his skin, breaking his rosary, slamming him into walls. The house smelled of decay and burnt flesh. The nursery's crib rocked violently at midnight every day. Then the night of labor came, a night when the sky turned pitch black, no stars visible, heavy winds roaring like beasts. Emily screamed in pain as the labor began far too early. The entire house shook as if something was trying to break free from underground. Windows shattered inwards, lights exploded, and demonic silhouettes filled the rooms, crawling, hovering, shrieking. Pumpkin dragged himself in front of Emily, weak but determined, hissing at the shadows, despite barely being able to stand. Father William attempted the ritual, but the spirits overpowered him, throwing him across the room. Daniel held Emily tightly as she cried, "They're taking her! They're taking her again!" He begged the spirits, screamed for help, but the entities surrounded Emily with monstrous hunger. In the middle of the chaos, Emily realized only one thing could save her unborn child. A life for a life. She pushed Daniel away, stood despite bleeding and trembling violently, and looked straight into the swirling mass of demons. Through tears, she whispered, "Take me instead. Leave my baby." Her voice cracked, but her resolve stood firm. The spirits froze, then slowly retreated, accepting the ancient bargain. A violent wind struck Emily's body, lifting her into the air, ripping her soul from her flesh. Daniel screamed, grabbing her hand, but unable to hold on. Emily's lifeless body crashed to the floor the same moment the newborn cried out, a living miracle born from death. The spirits disappeared instantly. Father William crawled to the baby, whispering prayers. Daniel held Emily's body, sobbing into her hair, begging her to come back. Pumpkin lay beside her, weakly touching her hand with his paw, before taking his last breath. Emily was buried under a gray sky, Daniel placing Pumpkin's collar inside her coffin so she wouldn't be alone. Months passed and Daniel raised baby Lila alone, broken but determined. But the spirits were not satisfied. One night, a dark figure entered Lila's room, reaching into her crib. Before it touched the baby, a blinding white force slammed it backward. Emily's spirit stood there radiant, fierce, protective, her eyes filled with love and sorrow. Tuk Sailan, she hovered beside her daughter, shielding her with supernatural power far stronger than the demons. The spirits returned again and again, but each time Emily stood like a guardian flame, unwavering. Her love had transformed her into something powerful, something eternal. Daniel began to sense her presence, sometimes feeling a warm touch on his shoulder, sometimes hearing soft humming Emily used to sing. Lila grew up laughing at unseen things, smiling as if seeing someone Daniel couldn't. Emily's spirit never left her daughter. She watched over her every night, a mother who died to save her child, a soul who fought darkness with love stronger than any curse. And though her body was gone, Emily lived on, not as a ghost chained by sorrow, but as a warrior spirit fueled by eternal love.